Apologies for absence have been received from Councillor Andy Skeets, Councillor Matt Bell, Councillor Ryan Hope, Councillor Ray Bryan, Councillor Simon Clifford, Councillor Andy Todd, Councillor Barry Gorringe, Councillor Spencer Flower, Councillor Tony Coombs, Councillor James Somper, Councillor David Morgan and Councillor David Taylor.
You can tell it's the Easter holidays. Number 2, the minutes. Are you happy for me to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of February and the meeting on the 26th of March? Everybody happy? Thank you. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No? Thank you. Item 4, we're going to now have a short presentation from members of Dorset Youth Council.
Thank you very much for inviting us here this evening. I'm going to hand over to the members of Dorset Youth Council in a moment. We are very interested in your opinions on a couple of the topics we're going to speak about this evening, but we're going to share with you our email address, so we're hoping that we might be able to engage with you in that way. So we don't expect you to give any feedback this evening. So I'm going to hand over to my team and over to you, Dempsey.
Hi, my name's Dempsey, part of the Youth Council.
Big voice.
Oh, yeah. Since our last full council meeting, we've met and talked about our views about the Weymouth 2040 plan. We were invited by Matthew Hiles, the director of it, to talk about, to inform the council's economic growth strategy. Dorset Youth Council were asked to put ideas forward about what they thought about the regeneration in Weymouth and how the council could encourage young people to stay in the area. Some of the points that were raised were the lack of leisure facilities for young people, the lack of affordable housing available, the absence of shops in the high street, the presence of antisocial behaviour and the impacts on local tourism and general cleanliness in the area.
Hi, my name is Iman. During our discussion with Matthew, DYC talked about the limitations of further education in the area. Many young people leave the Weymouth and Portland schools to access Thomas Hardy in Dorchester at the start of Year 9 and then leave Dorset to go on to university after their A-levels. Often due to unknown job opportunities available in Weymouth, these people look for employment elsewhere away from the county. Some DYC members told us that their teachers encouraged them to go away to university to better their opportunities. We met with Matthew again last week and had the opportunity to share our ideas in a creative way what DYC members think Weymouth 2040 could look like. Ideas included the return of a cinema and more places where young people could go to enjoy something to eat. One member of the DYC designed a shopping area called Waymall.
Hi, my name is Sam. We'd be very interested to know what your thoughts about Weymouth and what you think Weymouth needs to retain young people.
Hi, my name's Tamsin. We would also like to know how you see Weymouth 2040. What might this look like and what would be your priorities?
Our next steps to gather ideas and thoughts of local young people across the county. DIC would like to bring other teams of youth voice and town councils together to share ideas and get views from young people about how the county should be done in the future.
We mentioned the last time we joined you about our involvement with the Education Safeguarding Board. DUIC were asked our views on mobile phones in schools. We have been to THS and this got feedback from Year 9 students. We have created a resource pack for schools which we have shared. We hope after the Easter holidays to have some feedback which we will share with the Education Safeguarding Board at the next meeting in May. We are hoping to make a video of what young people think. This topic is important to us as part of our manifesto is about staying safe, and this is a subject that lots of young people are interested in. We have found out so far that there are many pros and cons to this debate, but all young people agree that staying safe and protecting our well-being is important.
DYC will be interested in what you think about this topic and what measures schools should put in place to keep young people safe if mobile phones are allowed in schools. If you would like to email Youth Council, we would love to hear from you. Any feedback will be appreciated and will help DYC in deciding on our next steps. Our email address is... Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that excellent address and those questions. And I do hope councillors will look at the email and forward their brilliant ideas for young people in Weymouth. And we look forward to seeing you at the next council. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, the email will be sent to all members. Enjoy the rest of your Easter holidays. And now I'll move on. I have to report the death of ex-councillor David Mannings, who was a Dorset County councillor for 4 years. Councillor Taylor will say a few words.
Thank you. David Mannings. David was a proud Bristolian who made Weymouth his home most of his working life. As some of you will know, I'm trying to work out how many people would have known him. Most of his working life was in engineering. He was married to Anne, had 4 children and lived in Preston. But I thought I'd talk about the real David, the David I knew, the one many of you would not be aware of. Not his working life, but his hobbies. He was a keen ballroom dancer, which was his avenue into politics. He wanted to make improvements to the ballroom floor of the pavilion in Weymouth. It was through this that he met the Honourable Alderman Reverend Brian Ellis. David and Anne were regular ballroom dancers and could be found most Wednesday evenings at the Pavilion Ocean Room dancing. David was also the business manager of the private Preston Ballroom Dancing Group. Never ask him to go to a meeting when he had a dancing engagement, because he would never go. Another love of David was horses. Now, I know a few are into horses across the chamber. He had his own stables and fields in Church Road, Preston. As well as a cob, he also had Exmoor ponies. But what a lot of people would not be aware of was that he didn't only own Exmoors, he was a breeder and a judge of these unique animals. He was a member of the Exmoor Pony Society and the Dorchester Agricultural Society. I still love the thought that Exmoors were born in Weymouth. I think that's brilliant. When David retired, he wanted to become more involved with his community and public life, and was particularly concerned with planning issues and the expansion of caravan parks in Preston. This was his driver to become an elected member. He was elected onto Weymouth and Portland Borough Council in 2004 for Preston and Sutton Points, and served until 2012 with a 1-year break. In 2013, when Honorary Alderman Reverend Brian Ellis stepped down, David stood and was elected for Dorset County Council for the seat of Radipole, Preston and Sutton Points, where he served until 2017. David was very much a community-focused councillor, putting the people he represented first in his thinking and in his actions. He had a break of 2 years and at LGR stood for Preston Ward for Weymouth Town Council. It is a credit to him that he came top of the poll in that election. He served his residents well, and until he felt he had to step down due to his deteriorating health. His great friend and colleague, as we've already mentioned, Brian Ellis, summed up David's outlook on life and paid tribute to him when I spoke to him earlier on this week. And he said, David was a character who loved the community he served. He was a joy to work with over the years, both within the council and in the community they both served. He was always prepared to roll up his sleeves and get stuck in, and I remember him graffiti cleaning on Preston Hill. This was the sort of activity he was pleased to get involved with. He liked helping his residents, which is what made him a good councillor. I would like to finish just by saying something from myself. I will remember him as a hard-working, yet modest colleague. Thank you.
Thank you for those words, Jill. Now, if we can move on to item 5, the public questions. Okay. The first question is submitted by Steve Bryden.
Hello. Can I do a little preamble just before the question? Not like 10 to 20 seconds?
It's only 20 seconds. We've got 3 minutes altogether.
There, that's working. I'm a local person, and where I'm coming from on the question is that when I was younger, I used to work on a lot of farms in the area, not on beef and dairy farms, but on agriculture, vegetable farms, wheat farms, organic farms, oat farms, stuff like that. And the jobs that I did 20 or 30 years ago, if I tried to get them now, I'm a bit old, but I'd still try. But if I tried to get them now, they're not there anymore. They've either been taken up by machinery, or they're just the amount of farming in Dorset has changed within 30 years to be even heavier towards like the beef and dairy and industry. But with the question is, given that even if all fossil fuel production ceased today, food emissions alone would still push the global temperatures above 2% increase at the higher end of the Paris Agreement targets, and considering that agricultural food production accounts for 1/3 of all greenhouse gas emissions, it would make sense for Dorset Council to prioritise this crucial aspect of the climate crisis. This is acknowledged in the Dorset Council's Food and Drink Technical Paper. The largest contribution to food-based emissions comes from the meat and dairy production industry. Dorset itself has seen a massive growth in the livestock and dairy industry over the last century, which has led to a sustained loss of natural biodiversity in this area. Species locally have been depleted by 19% since 1970 alone, with a loss of 400 species to extinction. With 65% of Dorset farmland used for animal husbandry and only 11.5% for olericulture and vegetable production, there is room for a more balanced and sustainable local food system. Recent analysis has shown that agricultural emissions could be cut by 75% with a shift to a more plant-based diet. The IPCC has stressed that our food system should be transitioning from being a source of emissions to one that acts as a carbon sink. These are things that can be enacted at a local level that have a significant national impact. Cities around Europe, such as Amsterdam and Edinburgh, have successfully endorsed the plant-based treaty and implemented impactful local changes, such as increasing plant-based catering options in public institutions and schools. This includes Earth Days, where 100% plant-based menus are served. Will Dorset Council endorse the plant-based treaty and join a growing global movement towards a positive environmental change? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll respond to your question after the next two because they're on a similar topic. So can I now ask, next one is submitted by Sheila Biddlecombe. She isn't here, but Alex Harmon is going to read her question.
Good evening. So Sheila's question is as follows. Recognising the evidence that plant-based diets are better for both health and the environment, will the Council show leadership on this critical issue by taking the opportunity to lead by example and support a shift towards healthier plant-based diets by endorsing the Plant-Based Treaty? So endorsing the Plant-Based Treaty means expressing support, calling for national governments to negotiate a global plant-based treaty as a companion to the Paris Agreement, focusing on a transition to a plant-based food system in order to tackle the climate crisis, combined with implementing local action within the Council's authority, such as addressing internal catering menus, public education campaigns, and influencing positive change in institutions such as schools. Many UK councils have already taken the step to support this. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. We'll now move on to the third question, which is submitted by Sandra Hood, and hopefully she is now online.
Thank you. Can everybody see and hear me?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to ask this question. And just as Stephen gave a little preamble, I just want to say I'm a retired NHS dietitian and I was raised on a dairy farm, so I've got quite a lot of background in those two issues. But an analysis by the Office of Health Economics demonstrates that plant-based diets could save the NHS 6.7 billion annually, with 2.1 million fewer cases of disease. No other intervention can deliver such significant health advantages alongside cost savings and environmental benefits. Local councils are in a strong position to introduce plant-based initiatives and deliver public education. Cities like Edinburgh and Amsterdam have endorsed the Plant-Based Treaty and developed comprehensive plant-based food strategies. Implementations such as public awareness campaigns, community cooking classes, and partnerships with local businesses have been implemented by other councils to make plant-based eating more accessible, appealing, and convenient for our residents. Given these compelling health and economic benefits, will Dorset Council endorse the Plant-Based Treaty and take steps to normalise plant-based foods and encourage their consumption? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Now, Councillor Ireland will respond to all those three questions.
Thank you for your questions. Councillor Ireland, Nick Ireland, representing Crossways Ward. I'm going to try to answer all three questions in one response because they are very similar. And you will get a written version individually afterwards. So I'm afraid it's quite long, but here we go. Our communities will be eating meat and dairy well beyond 2050. And livestock farming will continue to be an important part of Dorset's economy and culture in Dorset well beyond 2050 as well. But for that very reason, tackling the environmental impact of food and livestock in particular is essential. And a part of that will require greater understanding, availability and affordability of lower emission foods to help us adopt more sustainable diets. Do nothing and everyone go vegan are both incorrect and polarizing approaches, but they're not the only options. And that is not just my view, that's the opinion of the National Climate Change Committee and also the Food Strategy Independent Review, amongst others, whose analyses carefully consider these issues alongside food security, the impacts on farm businesses, affordability, and food imports. I want to particularly emphasise 4 key things. Firstly, unlike cities, we can't just focus on what we buy, but also how it's produced. Our farming businesses are at the front line of climate change, both for cutting emissions and climate resilience threats to our food system. That's a source of anxiety amongst farmers who often feel vilified, but we can't achieve net zero without them. It presents both risks and opportunities to our farming businesses, layered on top of other worries around subsidies, tax and trade. That's why they need proper support, incentives and revenue streams in place to help them diversify. Cities without agricultural sectors may be able to ignore this, risk antagonising farmers and focus just on consumers, but we cannot. We have to be clear that a climate transition for farmers is a must and that farming is a key opportunity area for green rural economies. Secondly, whilst there is a need to increase how much plant-based food we all eat, cutting food emissions is a more complex challenge than just shifting to plant-based diets. We also need to shift what meat is bought, given the considerable variation in emissions amongst meat and where it's produced. And we also need to ensure farmers are supported to make changes on livestock feed and additives, breeding practices, and grazing and waste management. These won't be sufficient in themselves, but they do matter. Thirdly, diet isn't just important for reducing emissions, but for drawing more carbon down by nature. By doing that, we'll need to be very carefully targeted to ensure that not only we maintain, but increase domestic food security and protect our best agricultural land, particularly in the context of food security threats to agriculture from climate impacts themselves. That's why things like the land use framework and the local nature recovery strategy are so important. They'll help ensure that this is carefully managed and planned. Fourth, there are opportunities and risks both for health and the cost of living. Eating more plant-based foods could support healthier and more nutritionally balanced diets, but it also could be negative in some cases, which is why information and guidance on nutrition and meal planning around plant whole foods are so important. Improving health would involve eating more plants, not fake meat, but we must recognise how costs and convenience will influence people's choices. Just calling for more plant-based food isn't enough without measures to ensure that they're more accessible and more affordable, that people have the knowledge and skills to ensure good nutrition, and that we don't worsen cost of living pressures, particularly in a context where the impacts of climate change might itself add inflationary pressures to food bills. For all these reasons, and to be clear, for all that we agree lower emission diets are important, we don't currently believe that the treaty nor a simple call for plant-based diets is necessarily the right approach at this point. As I said at the beginning, this doesn't mean that doing nothing is an option. Far from it. Dorset Council has rightly retained its county farms estates, which could drive our influence. We have strengthened our engagement over this last year with a wider agricultural sector whilst drafting the local nature recovery strategy. And we also offer plant-based alternatives in our catering facilities and our school menus. And we're creating a public sector sustainable procurement toolkit to go further. That's a good foundation for action. But what's really needed is much bigger than a campaign. It requires strategic changes to the systems for supporting resilient and diversified farm businesses, steering carefully targeted land use change, and enabling informed, affordable, and healthy choices by consumers. So that's the answer to the question. The short answer is no, we're not planning to endorse it anytime soon. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for submitting your questions. Question 4 is submitted by Richard Thomas, who also is attending online. Are you there, Mr. Thomas?
Yes, I am. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My question is for Councillor Nick Ireland. With environmentalists and nature lovers in Dorset agog at what is in the draft Dorset Local Nature Recovery Strategy, the LNRS to use the acronym that he just referred to, and with public consultation on the excellent Wiltshire LNRS closing on the 16th of April, can you please confirm when the Dorset version, the Dorset LNRS draft, will be published, how long the consultation period will be, how the general public will be able to comment on the strategy, and what response, if any, Dorset Council has made to Wiltshire Council on its LNRS, in particular for those areas bordering Dorset, such as Shaftesbury, Gillingham and Motcombe? And has the Council also responded to the national consultation on land use in England, the deadline for which is the 25th of April? And if so, is that response available to view yet online, please?
A response from Councillor Ireland.
Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward. Thank you, Mr Thomas, for your question. I obviously mentioned LNRS in the previous response. This is a slightly shorter response than that, you'll be glad to know. So the draft Dorset Local Nature Recovery Strategy is currently having changes made after we went out to our supporting authorities, which are BCP Council and Natural England, as this is a statutory requirement. It is expected that the public consultation will start at the end of April and it will last for 12 weeks. There'll be lots of ways the public, businesses and organisations can respond, including a range of events, some at libraries, some at specific meetings, and also online, of course. There'll be an online survey throughout the 12 weeks, and the Nature Recovery Dorset web pages on the Dorset Council website will be updated with the data and information needed and will be promoted through a wide range of media channels. The local Nature Recovery Officer has worked with the Wiltshire LNRS team, and there has been a regional LNRS Southwest group running for 18 months, where officers and Natural England have come together to discuss any issues, especially relating to cross-boundary work. There is no official response from Dorset Council to the Wiltshire LNRS. The authority is in the process of preparing a response to DEFRA's land use consultation. Our response will be submitted by the consultation deadline, which is very soon, and will be accompanied by a covering letter from me. Both the consultation response and the covering letter will be published in due course.
Thank you. We now move on to question 5, which is submitted by Giles Watts, but he is unable to attend. So Richard Thomas will ask that question as well.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This question is also directed to Councillor Nick Ireland. So Mr. Watts writes, Dorset Climate Action Network, again with the acronym DCAN, welcomes the Council's continued focus on climate issues in its recent report, Revised Greenhouse Gas Emissions Reduction Trajectories and Key Milestones, and is delighted that the targets for net zero have been brought forward by 5 years to 2035 for the Council and to 2045 for the county, with a further £6 million to support the acceleration of the Council's carbon reduction programme. However, we are disappointed that the intermediate net zero targets have been diluted to make them easier to achieve, especially those for 2025 and 2030. We also note the report is mostly devoted to addressing emissions within the direct control of the Council, representing only about 1.5% of the county's emissions. The rest of the county's emissions are only dealt with in Section 6 and in much less detail. It refers to some great existing programmes, such as Low Carbon Dorset and Healthy Homes, but it lacks any significant new programmes or any coherent plan as to how the county will reduce its emissions in key areas such as power generation, transport, housing, industry and agriculture. DCAN believes it is not good enough to assume that decarbonising the county is the sole responsibility of central government. It's important that the Council shows leadership, and we believe there is so much more the Council could be doing, such as insisting on higher standards in new housing developments with better insulation, solar panels and heat pumps as standard, while retraining planners so that they encourage rather than discourage these technologies, even in conservation areas. Supporting communities to become net zero through community energy schemes involving solar and wind power and community heating. Going all out to support large wind farms offshore and around the Southwest Peninsula that will bring a wealth of jobs and cheap energy. Encouraging active travel with better infrastructure and support the take-up of electric vehicles with reduced parking charges, the carrot approach, and low emission zones, the stick approach. Pressurizing high industrial emitters such as Perenco to install carbon capture to reduce their emissions, which are 4 to 8% of Dorset's emissions coming from their diesel turbines, and working with farmers to reduce agricultural emissions through changes in land use and a movement towards providing crops for plant-based diets. Many of these initiatives are compatible with the Committee for Climate Change's 7th Carbon Budget, which stresses the need to move towards electrification of home heating and transport, followed by reform of agriculture and development of natural carbon sinks. So will the Council therefore commit to making a clear plan for reducing emissions across Dorset and to working with local climate and environmental groups to achieve this? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Now, Councillor Ireland.
Councillor Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward, me again. The response is slightly shorter than the question. You'd be glad to know. Thank you for the question. Obviously, Giles didn't read it, so thank you, Mr. Thomas. Giles will know we think very highly of the work that Dorset can do. It's got can do written here, and that's me all over, isn't it? So that Dorset can do not only as a critical friend, but that helps push us further, but also the action they take in their own right through Open Greener Homes, on hedges, Dorset COP, and more. So we always welcome and value your engagement with us. We're very pleased to have brought our net zero and milestone targets into line with the pathways set out by the Climate Change Committee in the National Carbon Budget. As the paper outlined, having that foundation gives us greater confidence in the balance of ambition, pragmatism, and the risks involved. And we're particularly pleased to have ensured that it's not just a paper commitment, but one backed by funding. Giles is right that the paper puts more emphasis on the operational side of our activity, but that reflects the motivation behind the paper being able to secure an additional £6 million capital for the Council's operational programme. But we certainly do not shrink from the significant task that there is in driving county-wide change. The paper could not in a single document deal with the complexity of plans required across all the sectors that Giles mentions, but that's why we're actively developing new plans and strategies across most of these areas, including the new local plan to address things like solar, that sort of stuff, local transport plan, local energy plan, economic strategy, and also the local nature recovery strategy, which we've mentioned several times already, which combined with a forthcoming national policy framework will help set the foundation for a clearer route for agricultural emissions. They will be the key policy foundations for making sure we get it right on new builds, energy infrastructure, and transport decarbonisation incentives, amongst other things. And we very much welcome Dorset Can and wider stakeholders' involvement in the engagement and consultation processes for all these things over the coming months. Amongst other things, we are hopeful that they will underpin our focus, our increasing focus and active work on opportunities like the green energy cluster opportunity around Portland and Weymouth, as we pivot to prioritising the green economy as a key determinant of better outcomes and prosperity for residents. To this end, we're already engaged in conversations on these, which you'll appreciate for commercial reasons that I can't necessarily detail. Also beyond strategy, we're undertaking a range of facilitation measures to help try and influence change beyond the Council, including creating a climate ambassadors programme and events with our schools, creating toolkits for public sector sustainable procurement, working with town and parish councils to support their journey to net zero, and looking to potentially launch a Solar Together scheme later this year. We are also regularly meeting with other public sector organisations, trying to align our efforts to decarbonise at scale. Suffice it to say, there is a long way to go, of course. We always welcome DCAN's views and guidance on how to progress. I know Giles already engages regularly with our teams, but I'd be very happy to meet with him and anybody else from CAN for that matter to help ensure that the opportunities to help input to our strategies and plans are clear and to identify any more ways that we could collaborate with our new strong network of active communities. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the end of the public questions. So we move on to item 6. There are no petitions and deputations. So item 7, the Leader of the Council will report to us. Another Nick.
Me again. And Councillor Wilson's going to say something as well after me. we'll try and be quick. There was a question asked at last Cabinet/Full Council about tyres being sent around the world to burn. So I'd like to thank Councillor Christopher for raising that, and also for exposing my apparently shocking lack of omniscience, but I did find out the answer. Unsurprisingly, we don't send anything out of this country. We use a company called Truck Tyre for our used tyres for our fleet. They, in turn, use a company called TRS for our casings, which is basically tyres which are worn. This company are ISO 14001 accredited. The certification and information on them can be found online if you look for it. TRS tyres are also signed up to the Tyre Recovery Association, and they, in turn, are signed up to the Responsible Recycler Scheme. And a quote from their website, "A cornerstone of the body is its Responsible Recycler Scheme. All TRA members are fully accredited by the scheme, which guarantees that all tyres collected, recycled or reprocessed are disposed of or reused in an environmentally friendly manner or best practice methods. Where first tyre lives can be reused, they will be turned onto remixed second tyres." I think it was a retread is the phrase that used to be used. When TRS tyres scrap the tyre for the final end of life, they send it to another company, which is called Murfitts Industries, who are Murfitts Industries, sorry about that, who are also part of the TRA. Murfitts Industries are an environmentally sustainable British company manufacturing rubber granulate or rubber crumb from post-consumer tyres. We achieve 100% recycling of rubber, steel and fibre. Our granules are used in sports services, pathways, practice pitches, children's play areas, carpet underlay, modified asphalt and many other industrial applications. The state-of-the-art recycling system means they can recycle the full 100% of the component materials in our tyres. That's 100% of the rubber, 100% of the steel and 100% of the fibre. And they believe they are the only tyre recycling plant in the world able to make that claim, so we use them. So the very short answer to the question is that I can categorically confirm that we do not send any tyres abroad, including India or anybody else, anywhere else, for example. Two other things. You may know I'm doing the town council tour every 6 months. I've nearly finished the first one. I've got a few to go. I've got Bridport, Wimborne, Corfe Mullen and Chickerell, I believe, is left. I was at Weymouth Town Council last night. It's been going great. I think they really appreciate it. I suspect the warm and fluffiness that I've received will probably change the next round when I suspect a lot more challenge becomes. I've been making some promises and I expect they'll be holding me up to those. So for any officers who are watching, please make sure you do what we're trying to do. And I would just like to thank members for actually giving so many questions. There is going to be a lot more of me and other cabinet members. It gives us a real, I guess it's free airtime to basically say what we're doing and promote ourselves. So thank you. Cheers.
Anyone want to ask a question on the leader's comments? No, thank you. Now we move on to the cabinet member who's going to give a report.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a brief statement regarding equality, diversity and inclusion. Sorry, Ben Wilson, South East Purbeck, Cabinet Member for Corporate Development and Transformation. As a council, we remain committed to equality, diversity and inclusion. We are proud to support and promote diversity and inclusion within the council and across Dorset. We continue to work to foster an environment where all people feel included and diversity is valued. Within the council, we talk about how inclusion is at the heart of what we do. This means that tackling inequality, challenging discrimination and promoting inclusion are not just legal obligations under the Equality Act 2010, but fundamental principles that guide our actions and decisions. As a public body and one of the largest local employers, it's important for us all to lead by example and show that inclusive working environments show what inclusive working environments look like and the value that diversity brings to productive, thriving organisations. We already have important foundations in place, including a strong EDI strategy and action plan, which was agreed by Council. Our strategy is clear. As a Council, we are committed to 1, eliminating unlawful discrimination, harassment and victimisation. 2, advancing equality of opportunity for all, and promoting positive relations between different groups of people. We know that our EDI journey is a long one, and we have quite some way to go to get to our destination. As the Cabinet Member for EDI, I acknowledge that we could be more inclusive today. But to create a truly inclusive environment and foster diversity takes time, and most importantly, effort. Therefore, I reaffirm this Council's commitment to EDI, to investing the time and energy into building a truly inclusive and diverse workplace, and to fostering an environment across Dorset where everyone is welcome and included. Thank you.
Thank you for that very important statement you've made on behalf of the Council. Move on to item 8, questions from Dorset councillors. The first is submitted by Councillor Mercer, and as it's all about the length of meetings, I wonder if you don't want to read out all your questions. You're welcome to if you want to.
How rude. Right, good evening, Steve Mercer from Blackmore Vale Ward. Actually, I did put my question, first of all, through Copilot. My first draft was 688 words, and I knocked 200 off that by putting it through Copilot. So I put my money where my mouth is. My question is about the operational efficiency of Dorset Council in relation to internal reports and policies prepared for committees, cabinet, and full council. At the outset, can I say my question is not in any way critical of the officers, whom I have the greatest respect. It's more a challenge of the accepted custom and practice within the council. This is my first experience of working within the public sector, and one of the things that has surprised me the most is the length and complexity of papers, which would not have occurred in the bit of the private sector that I worked in. Some papers, so nobody can think I'm getting at them, some papers are overly long, repetitive, contain complex language and jargon, and honestly, this is the most important point, stifle proper scrutiny. As councillors, we all want to do a good job, but when you sit down and prepare for a committee, your heart sinks when you see the number of pages you're expected to read and digest. And think how much time we could save officers if we gave them the license to produce succinct, concise reports. Here are just 3 examples. Cabinet papers nearly always extend to over 400 pages. Copilot tells me if you're a fast reader, you can read those in 8 hours. The first policy I ever read, which was aimed at the frontline management of the council, ran to 101 pages with 134 action points. And lastly, why do I need 12 pages of supporting documentation to tell me why a 9-year-old child can't walk 3 miles to school? Whilst I accept policies have to have due regard for risk and keeping the council legal, the quality of report is not always indicated by its length. Indeed, the opposite is often true. And this is a safe place for dangerous truths. I honestly don't read all the papers for some of the meetings I attend because I struggle to understand some of them. Whilst I'm new to the protocols and processes of this council, my question or my request is that the council establishes a working group to produce a comms policy that sets clear guidelines for the length and structure and content of papers. The sort of thing I'd like to see is a reference executive summary, conform to agreed word count, are clear, concise, and in plain English, and to ensure compliance, for a fixed period of time, the council employs or appoints a gatekeeper who has the authority to ask for papers to be written or simply abbreviated through Copilot. So to recap,
Sorry, you've had your 3 minutes and you don't like long things, so we've got your question. Thank you. Ireland will respond.
Thank you, Councillor Nick Ireland, Crossways. I'm very grateful to Councillor Mercer for his question. As he's acknowledged, as a new member of Dorset Council, he won't appreciate that this has been a recurring theme during the first term of Dorset Council and a source of much frustration for everybody who did the last 5 years, with 1,000 pages sometimes for Cabinet. But to borrow a phrase, good news. We are an administration that rails against the same old, and the Democratic Services team have already begun work on the sort of changes you describe. These include revising the report template and amending the requirements on the officers who write the reports. Going forward, report authors will be required to include an executive summary and provide much more succinct reports, with links to additional information, i.e. it can be an appendix, rather than in the main paper. The Democratic Services team have also arranged to be notified when new staff join the organisation who are likely to be report authors, so they can have initial discussions with them and training, essentially, about the expectations around report writing and democratic decision-making. AI will also play an increasing role in report generation. I'm pleased that as an organisation, we are accelerating the take-up of Copilot, and our colleagues in the digital teams are doing a great job in engaging with staff and members to ensure that this tool is used to the best of effects. However, we also do need to recognise that Dorset Council is a complex organisation and must make decisions within a framework of legal requirements. This means that sometimes we will need to provide councillors with detailed information, but this should be the exception and not the rule. And where we need to provide evidence and analysis, it should be done in a way that engages councillors. All reports follow a consultation process and have to be signed off by our statutory officers. They have the authority to act as gatekeepers, and their role includes ensuring that reports are succinct, engaging and informative. My Cabinet colleagues also have been tasked to do exactly the same when approving reports. As soon as this is ready, I will ask officers to share the new draft report template and requirements with group leaders and with you, Councillor Mercer. So the short answer is, yes, we're working on it really hard, and please bring it up.
For that. Our next question comes from Councillor O'Leary.
Don't normally need it, who passed away while in office and did so much in his time as a member of this council and on Cabinet to promote Weymouth Harbour and the economic regeneration of Weymouth as a whole.
Thank you. This time the response is from Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Louis, for your, Councillor O'Leary, for your question. John Andrews, Cabinet Member for Police Services and Member for Sherborne. I remember November the 7th very well. I walked into County Hall very early that morning, just as the doors opened, actually. Not far, well, in front of me, actually, I think was Spencer, who'd come through the back door. And I was my normal jovial self, walking through County Hall. Morning, Spencer, how are you this morning? With a stunned sadness, he told me that Tony had died. Very sad day. I noticed it's affected some people more than others, particularly Councillor O'Leary, who was a very close friend, and treated Councillor Ferrari as his mentor. I always got on well with Tony. Very frugal. I did write something else because he was portfolio holder for finance at the time, but I thought frugal was better than the comment I put in. But he was always very polite, civil, and gave a straight answer to everything you asked him. So as for the answer to your question, as you put in your question, Louis, very eloquently, the late Councillor Ferrari did a lot for Weymouth in his time on Dorset Council. And with this in mind, it only seems right that Weymouth Town Council, being the elected body of the town, provide the bench, and of course Dorset Council will be happily work with Weymouth Town Council to site and install a bench if they wish to go ahead with the suggestion.
Would you like to come back on that? No. Right, can we get to your second question then?
Sorry, John, not so friendly on this one. Can the council confirm that despite being voted through at the budget meeting, it does not plan to introduce evening car parking charges for Weymouth?
Councillor Andrews?
Well, it'd take long to answer. Yes.
That's your answer. Okay, you want to come back?
He should probably write the reports for Councillor Mercer. Can I ask how that decision came about? Because while I fundamentally disagreed with that decision, it was one that was ratified and agreed at full council, and a majority of members voted in favour of a budget that contained it. While I am happy that that decision has been, well, was very swiftly dumped within less than 24 hours, I think we must respect the decisions of this chamber when it's made, and it concerns me that decisions made in this chamber were therefore dropped by Cabinet, I assume. Can I just get an understanding that in future things like this may be thought through a bit better before being put into a budget, and that the decisions of this chamber will be respected when it comes to making policy?
This was a question actually about the car parking. Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Councillor O'Leary. Yeah, we will consider what you've just said, but councils have to change their minds sometimes, even when budgets are passed, as we've seen with the current lot in 10 Downing Street. But yeah, I'll take your points on board.
Question 4, submitted by Councillor Fry.
Better set the timer going, hadn't I? Thank you. Councillor Les Fry, Dorchester West. Farmers in the United Kingdom have a challenging time making a living. Our Dorset Council farm tenants are no different. They work hard for little reward. One significant help was the Government Sustainable Farming Initiative, SFI, which made a massive difference to farmers. So instead of sweating every acre of land to maximise profits, they are able to work with nature to set aside sections of the land to improve the water, soil and air. The previous government administration termed SFI public money for public goods. Farmers were paid to ensure healthy crops, trees, plants and bees, improve soil quality, reduce flooding, limit climate change and to enhance the beauty of our countryside. A great many farmers have based their finances on the SFI and we're very proud of the ongoing work to improve the countryside. These were not subsidies, they were payment for protecting the natural environment. In mid-March, without any notice, the government closed the SFI scheme to new applications. This is, in short, a complete disaster for many farmers, including our own farm tenants. Those councillors who sat in on the interviews for new tenants will remember that each balance sheet had an SFI entry, turning a minus into a positive balance sheet. This abrupt decision has many significant impacts on farm budgets, the viability of enterprises, and may impact on food security and the continuation of nature-positive agricultural practices on certain farms. For the next potential iteration of the SFI scheme, further details are due to come out in July 2025, but no commitment about when it will reopen and how much funding will be available for the scheme. Will the Leader of the Council please write either to the Minister or the department responsible for this decision and ask for immediate reopening of the SFI scheme? Thank you.
Yes, me again, Councillor Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward. I'd like to thank Councillor Fry for his question. I could give a one-word answer, but I actually believe it's worth exploring this topic in more detail, so bear with me. Late in March, I was invited to the Cordite Way, which is a new right-of-way, which, whilst not fully bridging the gap between Halton Heath and Hamworthy, hopefully will do so soon. It was a glorious Saturday morning, and those involved in the 20-plus year project, including our Rangers and our interim Chief Exec, were there in force for the opening speech by Vicky Slade MP. At such instance, living in the Dorset that we all know and love, it's difficult to square the here and now with the knowledge that the UK is one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, with less tree cover than any of our Western European neighbours, and a sustained loss in natural diversity in this area alone. Species locally have been depleted by 19% since 1970, with a loss of 400 species to extinction. Climate change tends to grab the headlines, This Dorset Council has acknowledged that greenhouse gas emissions are the major factor in global warming. And so we've just brought forward our net zero targets to 2035 for stuff we directly control and 2045 for the things that we don't. However, some of the climate targets are also nature ones, and the largest proportion of emissions in our 2045 target, at around 33%, is agriculture and land use in the Dorset Council area. One of the first actions of this Dorset Council was to declare a nature emergency, and is leading work to develop a local nature recovery strategy for Dorset that is due out for consultation shortly. Dorset Council activity for nature currently includes the Community Tree Fund, the Love Your Verge programme, and a cut and collect approach to green space management to support biodiversity. There is also a marine project to protect the seagrass beds of Studland by installing eco-moorings, a major heathland restoration project at Even Heath Country Park, the successful award of major nutrient mitigation funding for Poole Harbour, and the full allocation by Dorset National Landscapes of £2.4 million for the Farming and Protected Landscape project. It is also prioritising growth through the symbiosis of green tech and nature-driven solutions, driving economic recovery and creating jobs. Dorset Council, I'm pleased to announce, is in the top 10 councils leading on nature recovery as ranked by the Woodland Trust. As Councillor Fry has mentioned, a very large spanner has been thrown into the works by this Labour government, putting on hold the Sustainable Farming Initiative, which pays farmers for making space for nature on their land and, importantly, encourages sustainable farming practice. Sustainable farming practice is promoted as the way to farm in the Dorset Local Nature Recovery Strategy and is already being supported by some farmers in Dorset as a means to increasing agricultural productivity through healthier soil, planting trees and hedges, digging ponds, putting less nitrates in the water by reducing fertilisers, and better food production. 70% of land in England is farmed, and so if nature is to recover, farmers need to be a big part of the solution. So I will write to the Environment Secretary, Steve Reed, and request that his scheme is reopened and given the funding and priority it deserves. The last line could have been the answer, of course, but there you go.
Do you need to come back on that? No, thank you. Right, question 5, submitted by Councillor Ray Bryan, who isn't here this evening, but Councillor Jesperson will read it out.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Councillor Sherry Jesperson, Hillforts and Upper Tarrants Ward, asking this question on behalf of Councillor Ray Bryan. Given the recent announcement regarding weed spraying, can the reason for this decision please be explained? For example, is it financial, ecological or ideological? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor John Andrews. Thank you, Ray, if you're listening wherever you are. On the 18th of July 2024, the Council passed the Nature Emergency Motion. Including this was Section 6, Paragraph F, which stated, remove or restrict the use of glyphosate and other chemicals damaging to ecosystems and nature, and commit to a glyphosate reduction plan. The desire to reduce glyphosate as part of our response to the nature emergency, combined with the pressure on Dorset Council budgets, mean that for 2025, just one herbicide application will be undertaken across Dorset Council highway network, where herbicide is spot sprayed to the weeds within the field service. Completing one field service herbicide application per year is the same specification as 2023, where only one field service weed spray was undertaken. Alternatives to glyphosate will be trialled this year in some areas. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You'd like to come back on behalf of Councillor Brown?
Thank you very much for that response, Councillor Andrews. Given the experience that the previous council, the county council, had of making similar cuts, and it ending up costing the council a good deal more money than was expected, can we have assurance that this policy will come back for review to, I imagine it's to the Place Scrutiny Committee, just to make sure that the outcome is what we hope it will be and that there are no unintended consequences that cost us a lot of money? Thank you.
Councillor Andrews.
I have no problem with that at all. I will say, however, this year we have two contractors starting from different sides of the county, and the spraying will take a lot less time than what it has done in previous years. So we're consistent with what we're doing, because last year we sprayed early and paid the consequences.
Thank you. Council, question number 6 is submitted by Councillor Beddow.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'm wearing earpods because they've got a hearing aid function. I'm not like chilling with some music. But my actual hearing aids give feedback, so that's why I'm wearing earpods. The question is that Dorset Council asked our residents to use the parking app Just Park in order to save time and money. They did so, but why are we now penalising them for doing so by asking them to pay the app charges? Thank you.
Councillor Andrews.
Hello, it's me again, Councillor John Andrews, I'm sure. Due to increasing, well, sorry, wrong one. No, it wasn't actually. Getting confused now. Due to the increasing costs and changes with our contract with Just Park, we can no longer cover this fee. Until now, we've been covering the fee from our parking income, but we can no longer afford to do this without impacting other services. In most other counties where Just Park operates, the 10p fee is already paid by motorists who use the service. Users of our car parks can avoid the fee by paying for their car park by cash, credit card or contactless payment at any of our car parks, thanks to the previous administration's decision to install such machines. The app was introduced not to save money or time, but to give drivers a different option and the convenience of paying with their phones instead of walking to their car, or to the machines from their cars.
Thank you. Do you want to come back?
Thank you. So just the supplementary is, can I have assurance that if the app is, if people are choosing to pay by cash but the machines are down, but the app is working, people won't get tickets if they're not able to use the app?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. I don't see what the problem is because there's still alternative methods to pay. Contactless, app, cash, card. So I can't see what the problem is going to be.
Thank you. Now to question 7, submitted by Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much. Councillor Simon Gibson representing Verwood. Last week, the portfolio holder announced the area's set to benefit from funding to improve local buses. Dorset Council submitted an ambitious bid to the government's BSIP programme, and whilst any new funding is welcome, and the chosen areas will be pleased to have an enhanced service, many areas, including my own in Verwood, missed out. I do appreciate that funding into Dorset from the government was not enough to cover all areas. I have raised the frustrations of my residents on a number of occasions over many years, as the bus service in Verwood is not good enough for a town of our size. Given that Verwood was not chosen on this occasion, what plan does the portfolio holder have to improve the bus services in Verwood?
Councillor Andrews again.
Thank you very much. Councillor John Andrews, response. The allocation of the bus grant funding for 25-26 is the first step to transforming bus services and community transport across Dorset. The money we received so far from the government is only a small part of what we require. Longer term funding is key to us achieving our BSIP vision, so that many more communities can benefit from improved local bus services. Dorset is disadvantaged by the current government funding allocation formula, an issue we'll be raising to our MPs and directly with the Department for Transport.
Want to come back? Right, your next question then. Okay.
Thank you very much. The Verwoodians on Waste group are a fantastic group that coordinate volunteers to litter pick across Verwood. Since November alone, the dedicated team have removed over 1,400 kilograms of waste from the roadside. This is a remarkable achievement that helps our environment and saves the council money. The group is supported by many different parts of Dorset Council, from the waste team to Litter Free Dorset to the highways team. However, as the group continues to grow, they would like to do more. And to do so, there's a need for better coordination across the council so that our volunteers can get the support they need quicker. Will the portfolio holder consider how we can better support litter picking volunteers as part of the hedge-to-hedge review and create a single point of contact within Dorset Council so that the litter picking groups across Dorset can more easily get the support that they need to continue their excellent work?
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you for the question. Councillor Gibson. Firstly, thank you to the Verwoodians on Waste Group and all the other groups that do a magnificent job in litter picking around our beautiful county. So thank you very much to all of them. In response to your questions around supporting litter picking volunteers, our council plan emphasises the importance of collaborating with our communities, the voluntary and community sector and town and parish councils. The point of contact from most of these areas related to community litter picking is through Litter Free Dorset, a Dorset Council hosted partnership who can help with the equipment and putting voluntary groups in touch with the people in waste who pick up the litter and also provide equipment. Regarding work on the highway verges, the DC Green Space team will be happy to advise and assist and have done for other community groups. I suggest they contact the Green Space team to arrange a discussion. In terms of working more with the volunteers, there are opportunities to deliver specific campaigns in their area and that look at reducing litter as a source. For example, bin your butt, cigarette butt that is. It's a campaign that has been run successfully by some other community groups to reduce the cigarette butts in targeted hotspots, told you so. There are many resources in the Litter Free Dorset website. They're able to look at co-producing bespoke campaigns and the volunteers for their local area around specific litter issues. Please contact the LFD coordinator to arrange discussion if this is something that appeals to the volunteers.
Thank you. Do you want to come back?
Thank you very much for your answer. Our litter picking groups are full of great ideas to improve litter picking rates across Dorset, and they'd like to be heard more by the council. Will the portfolio holder meet with the Verwoodians on Waste Group and our other litter picking groups as part of a litter summit to hear directly from them?
Councillor Andrews.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gibson. The Litter Free Dorset will be happy to put this together and ensure that the council departments and town and parishes are invited to that community groups, have the opportunity to look at the ways of working together more effectively. This would not likely to happen until the autumn.
Thank you. Now we move on to question 9, submitted by Councillor Vitale.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, 2 of this administration's key priorities are to enhance the natural environment and to facilitate economic growth. And it just so happens that I have an organisation in my ward which I think could help with both those causes. HAB Tree Care came to my attention towards the end of last year with the storms, where they did such a brilliant job clearing trees off the road and performing maintenance work. But their real passion, their real interest is arboriculture. And reversing the depletion of native tree species in this area. And that's why this year they're launching a project called The Big Plant, which aims to plant thousands of trees across the county, starting in the north, and getting children and families, and particularly schools, involved with learning more about the role that trees play in our ecosystems. Now, particularly after what I've heard from the leader from the council today, I'm sure they'd be delighted to talk with the council about how they might collaborate. So to that end, would the leader of the council be happy to meet Harry and Samantha, 2 brilliant local young business leaders, to talk about their plans?
Thank you. Councillor Ireland.
Councillor Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward. Thank you, Councillor Vitale, for your question. Yes, I'll be very open to meeting with HAB Tree Care. As you say, there are initiatives to plant thousands of new trees and help reverse the depletion of native tree species in Dorset aligns well with our nature recovery goals. I would suggest, as a precursor to my meeting with them, that they contact Dorset Council's Green Space team in the north to have an initial discussion on what their proposals are, and to ascertain where Dorset Council's support may be required, and it also helps me identify who I should bring to the meeting, to be honest. Thank you.
Do you want to come back? We move on to question 10, submitted by Councillor Borden.
Thank you. Belinda Borden, Lyme Regis and Charmouth. Dorset Council has recently been expressing the intention to collaborate more closely with town and parish councils, including potentially co-funding projects as well as agreeing asset transfers and maintenance arrangements. However, I've been unable to establish what the best process is to achieve this. For example, in Lyme Regis and Charmouth, I understand that offers of co-funding could possibly enable bus stop boxes to be repainted, white and yellow lines to be repainted, surface water drainage problems, including in one of Dorset Council's big car parks, to be resolved, other car park repairs to be undertaken, other flood mitigations to be implemented, beach replenishment for coastal protection and amenity value, road safety measures to improve pedestrian safety, retaining river walls, old and current sea walls, roads and bridges to be repaired. Yet I've been unable to get proposals to be submitted as requests for funding contributions, with one exception from that small selection mentioned here. Locally, we do appreciate Dorset Council's financial pressures and the need to prioritise statutory services, but it isn't realistic just to expect town and parish councils to come forwards to offer to fund urgent repairs and routine maintenance, which are clearly Dorset Council's responsibilities as the landowner, highways authority, local flood authority, or coastal protection authority. Could we please design a process whereby Dorset Council promptly develops project proposals for the requested repairs, maintenance and improvements in our wards, with suggested requests for co-funding if appropriate, so that town and parish councils can decide whether they are prepared to contribute financially to get things done?
Thank you. This time, Councillor Biggs will reply.
Oh, sorry, I thought I...
Evening, Councillor Richard Biggs, Cabinet Member for Property, Assets and Economic Growth and Member for Dorset Poundbury Ward. Thank you, Belinda, for your question and for highlighting the various issues in Lyme, Regis and Charmouth. I understand your concerns and know how passionate you are about this. The issues you mention are important for residents, and we should be able to work collectively on resolving them. From the perspective of how we are organised at the council, they involve multiple services, and indeed it covers several cabinet members' roles in this, as I'm sure you understand, and different funding sources, which can make it challenging, as you're finding out, to establish a clear process for collaboration and funding. That is not an excuse, the current situation, and we acknowledge we need to improve things. I suggest we bring together key people from each service area to discuss possible resolutions. I'm keen to support and facilitate those discussions with you. Looking ahead, I want to reassure you that Dorset Council is committed to working more effectively with town and parish councils, as detailed in the Communities for All priority in the Council Plan. The Community Partnership Programme has been developed to fulfil this commitment. One of its aims is to enhance collaboration with town and parish councils, including how we will work on complex service and asset issues like the ones you have raised. To achieve this, the programme will create clear and accessible processes for devolution of a range of services and assets. In doing so, roles and responsibilities will be defined and mechanisms for fulfilling these responsibilities will be established, including funding options. As part of this initiative, we have started a new approach this week to improve community asset transfers of land and property to town and parish councils. A dedicated team in assets and property will now focus solely on land disposals, including community asset transfers, often known as CATs, rather than these tasks being part of the general workload of all general property surveyors. We acknowledge this new focus will speed up community asset transfers, which is an area we acknowledge has not worked well in the past. Importantly, we are committed to co-designing these improvements with town and parish councils. The first phase of engagement will take place over the next month, facilitated by the Dorset Association of Parish and Town Councils.
Thank you. Do you want to come back, Councillor Bowden? In that case, we'll move to question 11, submitted by Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Peter Dickinson, Littlemore, Preston and Sutton Points. Could the portfolio holder for Place please explain his reasons for withdrawing the relief for sponsored schools crossing patrols?
Thank you. Councillor Andrews.
Thank you for your question. Councillor Dickinson, Dorset Council is not legally required to provide a school crossing patrol service. However, the Council follows national guidelines and fully funds the service at locations that meet specific policy criteria. For locations that do not meet the criteria, these communities can sponsor a school crossing patrol, which will be fully managed by Dorset Council. Previously, sponsors only needed to cover the salary and associated costs like national insurance and pension scheme. They did not have to pay for line management costs, equipment, uniform, or maintenance of patrol lights when this posed a problem. This posed a financial risk to Dorset Council. To mitigate this risk, an executive decision was made in October 2024 requiring sponsors to also fund the management costs of equipment, uniform, and maintenance of patrol lights if applicable.
You want to come back, Councillor Dickinson? Yeah.
Thank you very much, Councillor Andrews, for the answer. I take it that this is the model for working with town and parish councils? Cut your support, money-wise?
This was actually a question about school crossing patrols. Councillor Andrews.
It's not about cutting, it's about not being funded anymore by central government. I can't help that. But no, we're carrying out our legal duty under the guidelines.
Thank you. Now, question 12, submitted by Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Peter Dickinson, Littlemore, Preston and Sutton Points. Could the portfolio for Place give an update on the junction of Louviers Road and Littlemore Road, which you met with myself and Councillor O'Leary back in May 2024, and offer any proposed solutions?
Councillor Andrews.
Councillor John Andrews, member for Sherborne. Thank you very much, Peter, Councillor Dickinson, for that question. I was there today at 12:20 at Louviers Road, observing the junction on my way to see the people down at the harbours. I also popped into my wife's favourite store, and I bought some shampoo and conditioner for her. And a sandwich for myself, by the way, sorry, because it was lunch. Both the junctions of Louviers Road with Littlemore Road were included as part of the transport assessment for the now consented 500 dwelling development to the north of Littlemore Road, which identified that no improvement works were required there at the junction. We have kept the junction under review while the first occupations of the development occur, and it's still the case that no improvement works are required. We will continue to keep the junction under review while the development continues. The development included additional facilities to improve connectivity and options for active and sustainable travel, such as additional crossing refuges and better links through the site to the existing pedestrian, cycle and bus facilities on Littlemore Road and the local services beyond. The development also benefits from a travel plan to promote sustainable travel modes to the new residents.
Thank you. Do you want to come back?
Thank you very much for the answer, Councillor Andrews. Better when it's written down, and I see that you damaged your wrist getting your wallet out for your wife.
Thank you. Question 13, submitted by Councillor Monks.
Thank you, Chair. Last two, and then we're done. Councillor Craig Monks, Bearminster Ward. What does Dorset Council plan to do to support small businesses that are struggling due to the recent increases in business rates, especially when combined with other rising costs such as national insurance? This is creating a real crisis within our small business community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Biggs.
Councillor Richard Biggs, Poundbury, Dorset Ward again. Thank you, Councillor Monks. Dorset Council recognises that there is significant uncertainty for business community at this time. The Labour government's imposed changes to business rates and national insurance contributions are beyond the Council's immediate ability to influence, as I'm sure you understand. However, the Council are working with strategic partners such as the Dorset Chamber of Commerce to ensure that government are aware of the impacts such changes are having on the businesses across the county by lobbying through the British Chambers of Commerce and other agencies. Also, the Dorset Growth Hub Network monthly report to the City and Local Growth Units, government agency body, flagged this additional burden on businesses just as today. Additionally, support for Dorset businesses is available through the Shared Prosperity Fund, which is operated by the Council, or the Dorset Business Growth Service, which operates across Dorset Council and the BCP areas. Eligible businesses may be able to secure support for either of these services, and I would encourage business owners to investigate the support available. In June this year, the Council will approve and adopt a new economic growth strategy. This will set out a long-term approach to ensuring growth and prosperity for Dorset. The strategy will highlight some of the major opportunities that can transform the Dorset economy. For example, the Council are aware of significant clean energy proposals for the South Dorset area and the potential for considerable defence manufacturing base to capitalise on increased government defence spending. Both opportunities have the potential to create a significant number of jobs and investment both directly and within the wider supply chain and service businesses. The Council will continue to investigate ways in which we can support local businesses, business community, and would welcome further engagement or views on what the form this support could take. Suggestions can be made directly to the Council on the economicgrowth@dorsetcouncil.gov.uk email address. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that answer, and it's welcomed. One suggestion I might have is an opportunity to work across the chamber with members from all parties to see if we can put our heads together and come up with some ideas that might be able to support those businesses. But it may have been lost to me, so I apologise if it was within the answer. But it comes to my attention there are a few things that we can at least consider. We could consider the discretionary rate relief, local business rate discount schemes, and also look to use discretion when enforcing those businesses that may not qualify for that direct help by setting up payment plans or giving them more time to pay their rates. So my follow-up question is, what consideration to the levers of funding that we do have we considered? Have we considered using these discretionary rates to support small business?
Councillor Biggs.
I'm afraid I'm not in a position to answer that. It's really Simon Clifford's area, and I'll ensure that we get an answer to you, which will be presumably copied into everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And question 14 is submitted by Councillor Monks as well.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Craig Monks, Bedminster Ward, again. So last summer I raised concerns around water quality and was told by the leader of the council that a policy would be considered, including inviting water company executives to attend council. Later in the year I asked for an update at Cabinet, at Weymouth I believe, if I remember rightly, and was advised that this would go to scrutiny. However, after speaking to the scrutiny chair, or the relevant scrutiny chair, I was informed that the overview develops policy and scrutiny obviously scrutinises it. I then raised the matter with the relevant overview committee, who gave a general update on existing council policy, but no clear response on whether a particular policy would be developed, as the leader suggested. Could the council clarify on what steps Dorset Council is taking to address water quality in our rivers and seas with a dedicated and robust policy? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ireland.
Thank you, Councillor Monks. Councillor Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward. This is the last answer, you will be pleased to know. The responsibility for water quality in our rivers and coastal waters lies with two water companies, namely Wessex Water and South West Water, but also with the Environment Agency as their statutory regulator role. Therefore, this council does not have a policy on something it has no direct control over. As Councillor mentioned, I have previously requested that the Place and Resources Scrutiny set up a task and finish group similar to the successful Grid Capacity Task and Finish group, which was chaired by my colleague Councillor Bartlett during the last Dorset Council, which was established to review the strategically significant issue of Dorset's constrained grid capacity, and the outcome of which is now informing our involvement with relevant partners in producing a local area energy policy. And to be clear, this is not a policy for Dorset Council, this is a policy for our partners around, which we are part of, and we were basically working with and providing information for. And as Councillor Monk said, my request was declined. However, we have been actively collaborating on water quality through various initiatives, including, again, the Dorset Local Nature Recovery Strategy. Whilst currently in draft, the priority 4 in the strategy covers rivers, lakes and wetlands, and priority 5 covers coastal areas. The strategy sets out the importance of water quality for wildlife and human health and provides many actions for different stakeholders to get involved with, helping deliver better water quality through collective action. We are also carrying out a project working with Wessex Water, the Environment Agency and Weymouth Town Council to address the recent downgrading of Weymouth Beach bathing water quality status from excellent to good, which has resulted in the loss of the beach's blue flag status. This project is being led by Litter Free Dorset, working with communities, businesses and organisations to raise awareness and promote a call to action by carrying out practical actions to improve the excellent bathing water quality this season. Just this week as well, we've had the good news that a raw sewage overflow into the sea at Chesil Cove has been taken out of service through a 12-week £1 million project by Wessex Water, and I believe our members from Portland were involved in that process, so thank you very much. In addition, I recently attended an environmental and water quality roundtable hosted by Edward Morello MP, which was also attended by water companies. I am now looking to extend an invite to Wessex Water and South West Water to join an informal briefing with councillors to discuss the issue of water quality, storm overflows, and their own improvement plans for the next 5 years. And I will send out an invitation to all members through the usual channels when this has been confirmed.
Thank you. Do you want to respond?
Thank you, Councillor Ireland. And hopefully that is the last response. I'm really pleased to hear that update. I was actually contacted by Wessex Water myself off the back of the questions and the local lobbying. And I think there's a real opportunity with the sort of community focus of Wessex Water to get into local wards, because the feeling I had from the person I spoke with, and I'm happy to share details afterwards, is that a lot of work, collaboration and time is going into Poole and the areas that affect that, quite rightly, but there's certainly an eagerness to connect with local ward councillors and look at your list, Councillor, of issues of where we might be able to find some funding. I think what
Is this a question? Sorry, you're going to ask a question. Councillor Ireland.
I would just say, so the round table I attended by, hosted by Edward Morello, the intention is that's going to repeat at least on a yearly basis, if not sooner. The other people who were there were people representing all the various rivers, including the ones in your patch, you know, the Brit, the Char, the Lim, you know, there's lots of them. The Froome, obviously, the Asker. Turns out it seems that every river's got a group. And one of the things I'm keen on, and I'll just announce this now, since I can, is maybe looking towards a river charter. So Lewis Borough Council, I think there are a borough council. So Lewis is near Brighton, some of that next to the woods. They created a charter for the River Ouse, and so you know I think it's a really good idea if we can do that, working with our the river groups and our own officers, and then anybody else, to be honest, to create a charter that covers our rivers. It doesn't have any statutory powers, but it can be used as a lever to push the right buttons. If that doesn't make any sense.
Thank you. That's the end of councillors' questions. And well, thank you for submitting them, especially the ones to do with nature and the environment. It shows we're all working together to do the environment work. So we now move on to item 9, the appointment of the Chief Executive. Councillor Ireland again.
Yeah, me again. So Nick Ireland, Crossways Ward. I'll take the paper as read. I'm not going to go through the details, and there's 2 recommendations we'll come to soon. This paper is the culmination of a process that started essentially with the resignation of Matt Prosser, I guess. And Chris Matthews, who's our HR lead, and Erin Lawrence, they had a meeting with myself, and I think Jonathan Moore was there, and Matt Prosser was involved, and they persuaded us that they could run the recruitment process in-house. There might have been a bit, we did challenge them, but they did persuade us. And they also, I guess one of the things was they also said that we could save a load of money to boot, around about £50,000. So we went with them, and I'm glad to say they basically aced it. The process went really smoothly. There was a couple of issues with the video process, but overall, they did it really, really well. And so I'd like to, in particular, Erin Lawrence, I'd like to thank her very much. I know she put a huge amount of work in, and included weekends and lots of other stuff. So I did try to persuade BCP to use us for the recruitment process. They've decided they want to spend money on external people. So yeah, that's their problem. So we had 133 applications in total. We shortlisted 20. No, long listed 20, I should say, of which 15 people submitted videos. Each video was 45 minutes long. By the time you watched them and filled in the relevant forms, that was 15 hours. So it was quite a commitment for those. So for those who sat through the videos, thank you. On the day, it was interesting on the day, there was a real buzz in council. There was like an electricity in there. Pretty much everybody you came across walking the corridors and the canteen, they all knew what was happening that day, and there was an excitement. It was a full-on day. We had 5 candidates. There was a cross-party staffing committee, so I'd like to thank council. So at the last proper full council, you allowed us to change the staffing committee, so there was 8 of us representing all the political groups, so thank you for that. We interviewed, obviously, each person. They had an hour, essentially. There was an external stakeholders panel, which included people like the Chief Constable, representatives from NHS, representatives for VCSE, all those sorts of people. We also had an excellent staff panel who I think gave all the candidates a thorough grilling, and their feedback was very important to us. I have thanked all these people already through emails, etc., and letters, but again, I'd like to thank you for the involvement. We had a unanimous decision. Dr. Catherine Howe was unanimously agreed by all of us well, that's the unanimous, isn't it? That's superfluous, but she is excellent. I can't wait for you to meet her. She couldn't be here tonight, and obviously, assuming we ratify her, she will be resigning from her current job and hopefully appearing probably the beginning of August, we think. But she has committed to visiting us and meeting with various leaders, group leaders, chairs of committees, that SLT, that sort of stuff in the meantime. And I won't really say anymore. There's that buzz I mentioned on the day, it's still there. Some people seem to know. I don't know, it wasn't me, I didn't leak the name, but some people knew who it was already. I think with a big organisation, things get around. But it did leak outside the organisation. With change, it brings opportunity. I think Catherine can deliver that. She certainly convinced all of us on the day that she was the right one for the job. And so I'm excited, and I can't wait for her to start, to be honest. And in the meantime, Sam is doing an admirable job, and he's very kindly agreed to carry on doing it until Catherine appears. And that's really it. And there's 2 recommendations. One is that we appoint her as, I'll read it out, Chief Executive Officer and Head of Paid Service. And the other one is as Returning Officer and Electoral Registration Officer, which is a different role. You may recall Jonathan is currently covering that role at the moment, and we gave him the permission. So I haven't asked him, but I'd like to invite Andrew Parry to second this, if he may, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but please vote for it.
Are you happy to, Councillor Parry?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Andrew Parry, West Parley Ward. I'm grateful to the leader for his invitation to second the paper before us tonight. I did just want to speak a little bit, if I may, about the 2 parts of the process that we've had since Matt Prosser announced he was leaving us. The first, of course, was seeking agreement within Council that we had a and from the leader in particular, that we had a genuinely, truly cross-council appointment process, and it would show engagement of not just us as the majority opposition, but also the other groups that are represented in the chamber as well. And I'm very glad that that agreement was achieved. The first task we were faced with, of course, was appointing an interim director, and I'm very pleased that we were able to secure Sam in that position. I'm grateful to him for taking that on. We know him to be a normally quite relaxed and easygoing person, but we have noticed that you seem to have an increased burden in your workload of late. So, but we do appreciate everything you are doing for us in that interim space, and please continue to serve in that role until Catherine arrives at us. Many people are often quite cynical about recruitment processes. Is it a done deal is often the sort of phrases you hear. And actually it wasn't. We very genuinely set about saying to the widest public possible, we have an opportunity for you to come and serve as the Chief Executive in the wonderful Dorset Council area and serve the wonderful residents of Dorset. And there's that heart-stopping moment when you go, everything should work, fingers crossed, let's see who applies. And you think, okay, the first few applications are received, good. But then they started to avalanche in. Such was the appetite for people to come and work in Dorset in this role that we knew we had the genuine opportunity to look at choice and direction. And the shortlist that was presented to the staffing committee was a diverse choice. It captured everything we would expect to see. And I would like to obviously thank Chris Matthews and his team for the work they did in ensuring that process was done fairly. As a leader of an opposition, I can assure you I was given the opportunity to not only ask a question, but ask the supplementary questions that I wanted to as well, to ensure that it wasn't just about serving the administration, but also understanding how to serve the opposition in our role. And scrutiny, of course, is a key part of that. So having got those reassurances that the council as a whole would be served well by Catherine Howe, I'm very happy to second the leader's proposal.
Thank you. Anyone like to comment? Councillor Ireland?
It's just been pointed out to me that my proposal should also include the words on the screen there. That's subject to the completion of usual pre-employment checks that we approve the recommendations.
Right, if nobody wants to debate this, we'll go straight to the vote.
Yeah, the vote is now open. Councillor Borden, would you mind? Thank you. Thank you, and the results of the vote are 66 in favour, no votes against and 1 abstention.
Thank you, and I think we're all looking forward to welcoming Catherine Howe to the chamber. Item 10 is the appointment of co-optees for the harbour, and I'd like to ask Councillor Hughes.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Rob Hughes for the Isle and Royal Manor of Portland, Chair of the Harbours Advisory Committee for Dorset Council. It's my job this evening to ask the members to support the recommendation that was approved by the interview panel for 2 new members, non-elected members of the Harbours Advisory Committee. They are Mr. Lee Hardy, who left last year in order to stand for local elections and also for Dorset, and has now applied to come back in the interviews, and also Mr. Mark Roberts. Both members of the public bring an excellent background with lots of understanding of the requirements of harbours, safety, business management, and much needed support they are offering to this council as non-elected members of our team of 10 in total, 6 councillors, 4 non-elected. So I'm asking the council tonight to approve the recommendation that was made by the interview panel for these two people. Thank you very much.
Is there a seconder for that recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second Councillor Hughes' recommendation. I was part of the interview panel. We had 5 interviewees, all 5 applicants that applied. Mark Roberts and Lee Hardy took top prizes, but it was very good. There were people that applied for the job because they knew it was available and wanted to be part of the organisation. But Mark and Lee came out on top. So thank you very much for Rob and the other independent, Richard, the other independent member that took part in the interviews. We had a whole day in Weymouth. Prior to that, we had a session just going through the application forms, etc. But no, I'll happily second. Thank you.
Larry, I think you want to speak.
I'm very sorry. The members who have been here a number of years, I'm going to make the same speech I make every time when this comes up. And the key word that Councillor Hughes said was unelected. I will never, ever vote in favour of anybody. It could be, you know, the Lord and Saviour Jesus Christ himself, one of the position on the Harbours Committee. I don't believe in having unelected people serving on council committees. I personally believe it is wrong. Mr Hardy, I served on the Harbours Committee with him. He is very knowledgeable on harbours. Councillor Roberts chaired the Harbours Committee during my period on it. I voted for him to be the chairman. I was very supportive of him as chairman. The big thing I don't like is we have people sitting on an advisory body of this council receiving a remuneration who are not accountable to the electorate directly. And I will always believe that is wrong. It's nothing against the 2 individuals personally. They're both fine individuals. But I cannot and will not be voting for this evening. We need to really review this. This is just an anomaly from the past, from the old boroughs in the districts, and it should be scrapped.
Thank you. Councillor Kimber.
Can you hear me now? Thank you, Chair. Fellow councillors, Paul Kimber, Portland. Some years ago, I used to be chair of the Harbour Committee, and there was a real lack at times of the wider expertise, and we need it. And I remember that 2 of the people we appointed at the time was one former admiral, which was, he could give me some really interesting stories, but it was that expertise that we needed of people with a great knowledge of the marine industry. And I don't believe you're going to pick that all up. I know I take Councillor Leary's point that, yes, they are unelected, but what they do bring, they bring skills and expertise to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I'm sorry to be a little bit contentious here, but would it be possible for us to vote for the individuals separately?
I don't think that's right in an open meeting. Well, it is possible, evidently. But if you're asking for that, Councillor Ola, we need a seconder to support your request. Okay, we will have to vote for them separately then. Does anyone else want to speak before we vote? Okay, we'll vote for each one separately then.
The vote is now open for the appointment of...
Sorry? Yeah, okay, we'll now vote then on the procedure of having co-opted members on the Harbour Committee. No. Oh, yeah, I see. We're waiting to vote whether we're having them done individually. Is that the idea? Yeah. Well, I think as chair, I've decided, because of the request, that we will vote for them individually. So we don't need to debate that. So we'll now go to the vote for the first one. Yeah, Lee.
Thank you, members. The vote is now open for the appointment of Mr. Lee Hardy. Councillor Sally Holland, would you mind voting again, please? The vote is now closed, and the result of the vote are 63 in favour, 2 against and 1 abstention. The appointment is therefore carried. Thank you.
Now we'll have a vote on the second appointment. Are you ready? Right, for Martin Roberts.
The vote is now open. Thank you. Councillor Hobbs-Chair, would you mind voting again? Thank you. Councillor Shortell, would you mind voting again, please? Councillor Took, would you mind voting, please? Thank you. And the results of the vote are 60 in favour, 5 against, 2 abstentions. The appointment is therefore carried. Thank you.
So we now have 2 appointed people for the Harbours panel. And thank you for that. Item 11, there are no urgent items. Item 12, no exempt business. And thank you all for attending. And I hope you all have a lovely Easter. Thank you.